Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I've got Michael Beckerman on, the president and CEO of the Internet Association, and we're going to talk a little bit about patent trolls. Michael, welcome to the program. Kind of give us a little bit of an overview of what the Internet Association is all about.
Yeah, the Internet Association, we are a trade organization representing the Internet industry and all of the well-known Internet companies that you know and love and use every day. Everybody from eBay to Google, Facebook, Yahoo, LinkedIn, and on. We represent about 20 or so Internet companies.
Okay, and your objective is to help enhance security and safety among these companies.
Yeah, our goal is to be the unified voice of the industry here in Washington and around the world in policy. And there are a lot of issues like patent trolls, which we're here to discuss today, that not only hurt Internet companies of all sizes, startup Internet companies, as well as the larger Internet companies, but also restaurant chains and retailers and hospitals and grocery stores. And that's what we're working on right now.
So you're a lobbying group.
That's one of the things we do. Yes.
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, there's got to be a lobbyist for a group like yours. It makes perfect sense. Okay, so tell me, first of all, I could probably guess and sound like a BS expert talking about the idea of patent trolls, but why don't you tell me what they really are?
A patent troll is an entity that is essentially a shell corporation that their only asset is a overly broad, bad patent that 9 out of 10 times never should have been given out in the first place. And their business model is to send threatening letters to businesses of all sizes asking for settlement money, and if they don't get paid, they threaten to go to court. And their business model works because the number that they're asking for from a business is less than the litigation cost. So, for example, a business like a Neiman Marcus or a Whataburger or an Internet company of any kind will get a letter from a patent troll saying you owe us $100,000, $500,000, whatever the number is, or we're going to take you to court. The business then calls their attorney and they say, yes, indeed, you're likely to win in court, but your court costs, your litigation costs will be 10 times what they're asking for, and so it's cheaper to pay. And that's what happens is these businesses are paying up, and it's costing the economy some $80 billion a year, not to mention all the jobs that are lost.
Okay, do these companies have a legitimate case? I'm assuming they do, or the attorneys of the companies that they're going after would say they don't even have legs to stand on. So I don't quite understand.
Well, it's totally legal what they're doing. Unfortunately, it's very deceptive, and 85% of the time when it's a business method patent, which I'll get into in a minute, the patent trolls lose. And their model is just based on realizing that it's going to cost you less to settle than it is to go to court. And frankly, that's an extortion tactic. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. And their patents that are given out, when they do go to court, they often get thrown out. And there have been a number of examples of patent trolls who've settled up into the hundreds of millions of dollars of businesses, which is very damaging to the economy, and a lot of people don't get jobs or lose their jobs because of that. And then later on, the patent was thrown out as not being valid in the first place, and that's part of the problem.
So tell me a little bit then how it works. So are they a law firm? Are patent trolls usually represented by attorneys or
Yeah, exactly. And so their only employees are usually a handful of attorneys, or they have a contract with a law firm, and that's it. They don't make any products. They don't innovate. It's just
the company itself. The company itself. They have attorneys backing them up, and they probably hire paralegals to do research of what different companies have done that are potentially patent questionable, and then they approach the companies whose patents may have been threatened by this company. Whether or not it's true would be settled in court, but they're hoping that the penalties of doing it out of court would be more attractive than having to have to go through the legal costs.
Exactly.
And then that company that agrees with the troll, they'll make 75% or 85%, whatever the law allows, and the patent troll makes the rest.
Or often the patent troll themselves, all they have is a couple of lawyers, and they're essentially a small law firm that's a shell corporation, and they have nothing to lose. The GAO just did a recent study showing that for the legitimate businesses that are being attacked by these patent trolls, the cost, and these are, again, like for medium-sized businesses, these are not large businesses, their costs are $650,000 up to $5 million to fight in court. and there are not a lot of businesses that can afford that, and that's even when you win. On the other
so
side,
sometimes you're not even representing real clients.
The troll, they're their client themselves, and that's it. And so they have their few lawyers internally. Maybe they work with a law firm, but basically they're just cranking out letters and collecting checks.
But aren't they misrepresenting their ownership of whatever they're challenging?
That's true. They're doing it in a legal way, and that's actually one of the things that Senator Cornyn from Texas, who's been a great leader and a very a vocal advocate for fixing this problem. He has the legislation out there that we're supportive of, and we hope to make it through the process. Does a few things. One, add some transparency, because a lot of times when you're being sued by a patent troll, you don't really know what that entity is, who's behind the shell corporation. It makes it very difficult to fight it. But also on discovery costs, when you go to court, when you're a legitimate business, your cost of discovery is very high. And so you're spending a lot of money at the very early stages of litigation that the troll doesn't have to do. The troll is just two lawyers in a empty office somewhere. Their only asset is the patent that they're saying that you're infringing on. And so there's a very
which may or may not be true.
Which may or may not be which may or may not be true, and so they have almost no cost of discovery, and also they're doing this, thousands of times, and so it's basically very cookie cutter from them. Versus you, as a small business person or a medium-sized business in Texas or anywhere else around the country, your cost of discovery could reach $1 million before you even get in front of a judge.
Looks like
and that's part of what the troll is. They're preying on that because they know when you talk to your attorney, the attorney's going to advise you that you're going to have these costs up front. The troll has none of these costs, and so they can afford to push you. And then at the end of the day, if you know it's going to cost you $1 million in court, even if you win, and your cost of settlement is $100,000, it's very difficult to make that decision to go to court. It's a lose-lose.
Michael Beckerman's my guest, President and CEO of the Internet Association. Looks like you've got some bipartisan support. I see here that there was an op-ed in Political by Patrick Leahy and Mike Lee, not exactly ideological buddies.
That's right. Even President Obama came out a few months ago saying that the patent troll problem needed to be fixed, and you have Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, like you mentioned. Senator Cornyn has been a great leader on this. Senator Leahy on the other side of the aisle has mentioned in an op-ed recently he wants to address this problem, and so this is bipartisan. It's one of the few shining areas, I think, in Washington where both sides of the aisle can come together and come to a legislative solution that's going to save the economy $80 billion a year and help create jobs.
$80 billion a year. Wow, that's incredible.
$80 billion a year.
$80 billion a year. How many times has this happened? It had to happen a lot if it's reached $80 billion a year.
Thousands and thousands, and you can't even tell the full extent of it because when the trolls are settling with these businesses out of court, which happens a lot, that just doesn't get recorded. And so really the patent trolls themselves are the only ones that know the full extent. But again, it's restaurants. I mean, Whataburger has been fighting patent trolls for a while, a great Texas company. They even had to make a decision not to offer Wi-Fi in some of their stores because patent trolls are coming after them on that. Even charities, nonprofits and charities have been attacked by patent trolls for just using their copy machines in their office.
Yeah, so not only do they make money for doing nothing that creates innovation or economic growth, they actually undermine innovation and economic growth.
Very much so.
Because whatever the next cool thing that would come after Wi-Fi won't be happening because the market for free Wi-Fi and these businesses are being attacked by these trolls.
That's true. These entities are not creating anything. They're buying a lot of these patents, usually in bankruptcy proceedings. And when you look at the patents, they're very broad. And when the patent office reviews them, quite often they get thrown out. And from a lot of internet companies, they've had to make decisions to hire lawyers to fight this or spend money fighting cases rather than hiring engineers and growing their business.
Yeah,
or when you go to the grocery store, your cost of groceries can be higher because the grocery stores have to settle with patent trolls.
Yeah, and in light of the fact that it takes like 5 years on average for a patent to be approved now, which is pretty sad when you consider that Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives the federal government 17 things to do, and one of them is patents, yet it takes 5 years to get one. All these trolls have to do is do a patent pending, don't they?
And then the other part is that with the technology sector innovating and expanding so much, a lot of these patents basically they take some kind of common sense business practice and they tack on the end of it on a computer or on the internet, and that's what a lot of these are. And when the patent office reviews them later on, which often it's too late for many of these businesses that have already been shook down, the patents get thrown out.
Yeah.
And you're out that money if you're a small restaurant or a retailer or a hospital or charities that have been threatened by these patent trolls. If you settle and then later on the patent gets thrown out, you're out that money.
Michael Beckerman, he's our guest, president and CEO of the Internet Association. My producer is in a name-calling mode. He calls these guys Internet ambulance chasers. Sigmund Awesome calls them patent bullies. We should start an anti-bullying campaign against them. There's probably truth to both of these. But what are you hoping to see happening legislative-wise?
Yeah, well, one, we want to raise awareness of this issue, and we want people to call your senators. Senator Corner has been terrific. Senator Cruz can be a great leader on this issue as well, as long as your House members, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's on the Judiciary Committees. We want the members of Congress and the senators to hear from the constituents, to let them know that they care about this issue, and particularly businesses that have been involved in some of these cases. Tell your story. Call your local newspaper and your local radio station, have your story heard. We'd like to see Senator Cornyn's bill passed into law. It's signed by President Obama, and hopefully if this gets addressed, it'll save the economy billions of dollars a year and help create jobs. Yeah.
Very good stuff. I really appreciate your time.
Great. No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Where do we go to get more information?
We started a website, stopbadpatents.com. We have information where you can contact your member of Congress, learn more, and check out the website.
Michael Beckerman, president and CEO of the Internet Association, stopbadpatents.com. When I come back, I have much more for you. If you want to remind your best content here, it shows up over there at usdatyreview.com, and you are listening to The Price of Business.